VTubers have always been a mystery to me. I can't exactly recall the precise moment I discovered what VTubing was, if that even is a term, but I believe it was sometime in 2020 with the rise of one very well-known VTuber, Iron Mouse. I'm not a regular viewer of her content, but her name pops up everywhere, from being one of the most subscribed to Twitch channels in a tense tug-of-war with fellow Twitch streamer Kai Cenat, to being a character in the popular video game Smite, to even being a voice of one of the characters in the English dub of a video game that I played 24/7, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising. Needless to say, and with my experiences as an added anecdote, even if you don't watch VTubers or keep up with them, their grip on the internet is astronomical, and it's only going to keep getting tighter from here, in all the best ways possible, I hope. But with all that aside, I'm a channel focused on making video game content, and I know I just said that VTubers are featured in video games quite often, but far be it from me, a guy who knows nothing about VTubers, to make a video about all the times that VTubers have crossed over with video game companies. That is a free video layup idea for anybody who has the knowledge or passion to make something like that. I'd watch it in a heartbeat. What I want to talk about instead is not necessarily VTubers themselves, but their intensely devoted fanbase. I've witnessed before the sheer power of a fanbase unifying under the same passion, and as it turns out, the VTube fanbase in particular has a very specific knack for creating video games, and not just any ordinary video games, but some of the most highly rated games on the entire Steam platform. There are quite a few VTube games in the market, but there are three in particular that I want to look at today: HoloCure Save the Fans, Idol Showdown Next Fez, and Holo Break. Let's start first with HoloCure, the game that currently occupies the number 7 slot for the top-rated Steam games of all time. I'd heard of this game before from my really close friend Mehezbak, who is a VTube connoisseur and will act as my guide throughout this entire venture, and will also be featured throughout this video as well, since I know like little to nothing about VTubers, so having an expert around will hopefully make me look not as dumb. Anyway, I knew that this game was popular, but it wasn't until I was making my previous video that featured Hades where I actually had to pause and take a moment to soak in HoloCure's popularity. To preface, HoloCure is a 2023 free-to-play indie game made by one guy named KU, who goes under the name K-Animate on Steam. Post-launch, the game continued to receive content updates, and to my knowledge, K still continues to gradually develop for the game to this very day. With only those two nodes of information to go off of, I added the game to my library, installed it very quickly, and launched the game to see what's up. And as I sat through this opening exposition and made my way to this very cute title screen, little did I know that the next few weeks of my life would be totally consumed by the insanity that is HoloCure. Where do I even begin? First of all, if I hadn't made it abundantly clear already, this game is free to play, and I mean completely free to play, no microtransactions in sight, which is actually a tad bit ironic because the way you unlock new characters is by rolling the dice like your typical mobile gacha game, except you don't use real life currency, but instead use the coins that you earn while playing the game. Just look at this absolutely massive roster of 47 characters, more of which are on the way in the future updates, and yeah, there are 47 characters, but would you believe me if I said I got halfway through unlocking this roster until I thought to ask myself, wait, where the f is Iron Mouse? This is the first time in the video where I'll invoke my right to use my trusty pal Mehezbak, who told me that HoloCure features VTubers from HoloLive, and Iron Mouse is a part of VShoujo, a completely different agency. Speaking of which, this is also where I discovered that VTubers have agencies and aren't all self-employed like I thought they were. So the Holo moniker in the game titles and the Yagoo CEO statues that you can find in the game started to make a little bit more sense. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to the character select screen. You'll only have a few characters to start with on your initial playthrough, and you'll slowly unlock the rest the more you play. A preview of some of the characters you have to select from include, but are not limited to, a shark girl, a dog girl, a gambling bunny girl, a shinigami girl, multiple fox girls for some reason, and an extremely horny pirate girl. Please don't ask me how I know about that last one. Once you pick your character of choice, you embark on either a stage mode or an endless mode, the only difference being that one mode has a final boss and the other is exactly how it sounds. You keep gearing up until you're eventually taken down. You also unlock a timed mode as well if you want to do the exact opposite of endless mode and race against the clock to complete certain objectives. Enemies of wide variety spawn in all directions and track their way towards you. At first there aren't many, but over time your screen is going to start to look a little something like this. I don't even know if a skeleton with a bandana or a loaf of bread in the shape of a dog are references to VTubers or HoloLive or what have you, but what I do know is that to be able to keep up with the increasing number and strength of the enemies, you collect these little experience points that reward you with a random means of getting stronger once you hit the next level threshold. After hours of playing HoloCure and still not really knowing any of these VTubers beyond the game itself, I think that the customization and the prioritizing of these level up perks has got to be my favorite part of the entire game. Each of the characters characters already has a certain playstyle that they lean towards, and this is actually one of the things that impressed me the most about HoloCure. The fact that nearly all of the 47 characters play in their own unique way. Sometimes you'll get the same swinging animation to start, but eventually each character gets specific upgrades that makes them wholly unique from the rest of the cast. One of my favorite things to do when I first started playing was to check out all the characters and see how they evolved the longer you survived and the more experience you gained. Admittedly, a lot of these upgrades are almost certainly references I do not understand, but being out of the loop kinda has its own charm to it. Like, why is this girl's whole motif the Grim Reaper? Or why does this girl burst into a phoenix with this cool ass animation? This girl just straight up sprouts angelic wings like a Final Fantasy VII character. It's fun picking a character based on their name, design, or their base abilities, and not knowing what I'm in for. This girl looks pretty cute and unassuming, then you use her skill and holy shit, what is that? The first time I saw this, I had to catch my breath for a second. As you can tell by the footage where I'm making no movement at all. Anyway, to dial it back to the main screen, you've picked your character and you're dropped into the field, and as you finish the stage and get coins, you use those coins to then unlock new characters, but you can also use them to give a permanent increase to your base stats. So the game essentially becomes this cycle of completing stages, getting coins, deciding how to split your income between new characters and upgrades, then starting the cycle over from the beginning by jumping back into a stage for even more coins. There's also a third element to how you spend your coins, but since you do unlock that after you've played the game for a short bit, I'll talk about that a bit later in the video as well. To me, I feel this is definitely a roguelike gameplay loop since you come back stronger with permanent upgrades, but it's also kinda in its own unique category with only one other contemporary that comes to mind. Vampire Survivors. I've heard this style of game where you take on an endless horde of enemies is sometimes referred to as a Vampire Survivor-like, or even called a derivative of two other popular genres, bullet hell and auto shooter. Vampire Survivors is quite the unique game, maybe not the first of its kind, but definitely one of the most fun. And since it's clear as day that HoloCure draws massive inspiration from it, everything pointed to this game being destined for success. Coincidentally, both Vampire Survivors and HoloCure were both developed by just one guy, so you really can't get more true to the original than that. However, there is one big difference between the two titles, and that has to do with the pricing. As stated by KU, HoloCure is a pure passion project, with the cost of development covered by his other creative works and jobs. They don't intend to monetize the game, and not that I think it's even possible for him to do so, not because I don't want to see a highly successful game developer profit off of their project, but because there's probably a lot of red tape between VTube agencies and fan games that could get really hairy if monetization were involved. So if I can't support HoloCure directly, I can at least show my support to KU himself by checking out his stuff, and I encourage everyone who played or will play HoloCure in the future who enjoyed the game to also do the same. You'd be helping them out the same way you guys are helping me out right now by watching this video. Thank you, by the way, it means a lot to me. So essentially, that was HoloCure in a nutshell. You fight hordes of enemies in different stages and either triumph and return back for more, or lose and still come back for more, just with a tad bit of vengeance. You get stronger with each run until you've basically become untouchable and relish in the pixelated chaos. With 47 characters and an uncountable amount of upgrades and other systems to mix and match with, the possibilities are legitimately endless. But what if, and this is a big what if, okay? What if there was actually a mode where you could play a farming simulator with VTubers? I know all my guys out there will see this interior decoration and think, hell yeah. So as it turns out, there's this mode that you can access from the main menu called the Holo House, and as the name suggests, you can basically play Animal Crossing but on your computer and with VTubers instead of villagers. There's a fishing minigame where you do some quick time events, a farming system with hired labor to generate residual income, a mining and lumberjack minigame with its own leveling system, and aside from being a very calm distraction, everything you do in the Holo House benefits the player in the main game, like making consumable items that restore health or creating barriers that take damage. There's even a day-night cycle and a weather cycle where characters will pull up an umbrella when it starts to rain. Other VTubers will come and go, and you can interact with them as well in some very funny ways. The Holo House actually feels pretty alive with the VTubers roaming around. Sometimes they'll water your crops for you or just come and say hi. It's honestly a really heartwarming and calm environment. You do have your own living space, and the decorations for the house can be bought with coins from the main game mode, but if you're struggling for some cash and don't want to go fight the horde of enemies just yet, because what the hell are some of these prices, you can do the sensible thing and participate in some cold, hard manual labor where you're paid for cutting down trees and smashing rocks, then crafting them into the desired pieces by the vendor. Or you could go gambling in the casino. Yeah, there's a casino in this game too, and it's owned by the bunny girl who was in the running against Queso for the Content Creator of 2024 award. This wasn't the first time I'd entered a casino, but it was the first time I saw what people actually do in casinos. I mean, I know you go to a casino to gamble, but I don't actually know what that form of gambling is. With Mehezbach to guide me through the whole process, I learned about roulette, cards, slots, high or lower, and the worst of them all, blackjack. This was my first time playing blackjack, and I think I'll just let the footage speak for itself.
He got all the fucking twos!
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, please tell me you were recording.
I ran the odds of this happening afterwards, and if ChatGPT's calculations are correct, then that would mean that there was a 0.0024% probability of this happening with a double deck of playing cards. This was my sign to never go gambling, but I really wanted the Sakura particle effect that you could get for the main game, and the exchange rate between coins and casino currency wasn't the best. So Mehezbach showed me the slot strat, where we spammed the spacebar on our keyboards in a race to see who could get to 10k first. And just as I was about to get there before him, he says this.
I need you to drop down to like fucking 6k. Oh my god, I got the 777.
I may have lost the race, but I still got my beautiful Sakura pattern, so I was a happy guy in the end. But Mehezbach wasted no time turning happiness to anger as he showed me the very last feature of the Holo House, this torturous Jump King inspired minigame that made me want to hit uninstall. Supposedly, there's a beautiful girl at the top, but I do not have the patience for this. I despise watching as my character falls down multiple consecutive floors, erasing all the progress I made. Maybe I'll come back to this one in the future. Maybe. So that's the main bulk of what there is to do in HoloCure, but for those who want to squeeze every little bit of content out of the game, there is an extremely robust achievement system with its own set of rewards, and even a heat system similar to Hades where you can purposely make the game harder if it's just not difficult enough for your liking. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're so powerful that you'll breeze through the hordes of enemies, so focusing on these achievements offers a different kind of challenge. I'm the kind of guy that likes to use every single character in fighting games, and that feeling was also applicable here. I played every single stage with every single character at least once, and you kind of get achievements naturally along the way if you play like I do, and those are the best kinds of achievements in my opinion. You don't have to go out of your way or keep a tracking log. The achievements go hand in hand with natural progression and interest. They quite literally come to you. So I'm not typically a guy that likes to do number ratings. I prefer opening a conversation and talking about the strengths and weaknesses of a video game. So to wind down this very long discussion about HoloCure, I love this game so much that no amount of words would be able to convey just how much fun I had. So the next best thing I can do to show my appreciation for HoloCure is to bestow upon it the highest honor that I can possibly give, the most coveted positive Steam user review, of which I don't have any other besides this one I gave for Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. HoloCure is just that goddamn good. I had to keep postponing this video because I could not get to editing due to how much fun I was having with HoloCure. At one point, I genuinely questioned if I should rewrite the script to make it an independent video about just HoloCure. I even considered postponing anything related to the video until I got the 100% trophy. Yeah, no, I don't care who HoloLive sends to my house, I am not doing that damn tower. But what if I were to tell you that KU actually made 2 HoloLive games, and that HoloCure was only the first? You see, I first caught wind of HoloCure from my buddy Mehezbach, who is up to speed and keeps relevant with VTuber info. So that's why I tried that game first, and why it's also the first one in this video. The second game brought to you by KU and in association with Holo Indie Publications is 2024's Holo Break, or Holo X Break. This is giving me some Hunter x Hunter flashbacks, so I'm just gonna call it Holo Break. Despite being the second game that I want to talk about, Holo Break was actually the very last Holo game that I played, the second one being the VTuber fighting game Idol Showdown. But because Holo Break is another KU production, and because I just got finished praising the hell out of HoloCure, I wanted to move Holo Break up the ladder to give the video a more seamless transition. With KU having earned my full trust, I plunged straight into Holo Break expecting big things. Now, for the record, when I play a game for the first time, as a general rule of thumb, I try to keep comparisons to a minimum, but with the same developer at the wheel and the same concept of VTubers as skins for a popular game genre being rehashed, there's no way I couldn't make comparisons. And unfortunately for Holo Break, HoloCure just set the bar way too damn high. The only thing that saves Holo Break in this regard is that it's in a different genre, so you can't in good faith make direct one-to-one comparisons in some aspects. But let's forget about HoloCure for a second and dissect Holo Break on its own. Released almost exactly a year ago from now in March of 2024, Holo Break is a side-scrolling beat-em-up in the same vein as Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the Game, just to name a few games that came to my mind when I saw the trailer for the first time. You progress through 5 side-scrolling stages, each visually distinct from one another, picking up consumable items, finding equipable articles of clothing that give you various enhancements, recruiting some nice little fellas to help you out during your run, and most importantly of all, doing all of the above with up to 3 other friends, is what I would be saying. But as of the making of this video, the multiplayer feature that was supposed to be included at launch has yet to be implemented after an unfortunate postponement. KU and Holo Indie did apologize for this delay, but if I may make a comparison, this was giving a lot of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax 2022 whiplash. That game launched without a crucial feature for modern day fighting games called rollback netcode, which essentially makes online play feel seamless. The guy in front of you could be from the other side of the world, but they'll feel like they're sitting in the same room as you with little to no lag. The game did eventually get a rollback update about half a year after launch, but for a 2013 fighting game resurfacing in 2022, the feature needed to be there on launch day to really draw in that new audience. Even if it did turn heads on launch day, player interest eventually petered out due to the lack of rollback and some other bugs during launch as well. And this is almost a one-for-one comparison with Holo Break, because after playing this game in single player and multiplayer, I can tell you confidently that multiplayer was the superior experience. The gameplay is almost identical regardless of if you decide to run it solo or with friends, but this genre really thrives off of playing with others. It dates all the way back to 1987's Double Dragon on the Atari 2600, where you could plug in another controller and hand it to your friend, and then later on the Nintendo Entertainment System in Double Dragon 2. In Vampire Survivors, you can actually play the game in multiplayer if you wanted to, and although HoloCure doesn't feature this option, the single player experience still feels complete. Multiplayer would have added to the experience, but it's not essential to enjoying the game. But with Holo Break, it really does feel like there's something missing here without the option to play multiplayer natively built into the game. Now, I say natively quite deliberately because you can use Steam's remote play feature to play online with friends, but the connection can be kind of spotty sometimes since one person is essentially hosting for up to 3 others on their network. Even though you can play single player, the game truly is designed with multiplayer in mind. From the character select screen where the game prompts others to join, to the very cutely drawn stickers that you can collect that let you communicate with your teammates, giving callouts, taking the time to swap items with them to optimize the game plan, buying and enhancing items together on one screen so we could give each other tips, and raging at the game together when all that preparation fell apart at the last second. That was where Holo Break really showed its true colors.
Damn, bro, you could have
I'm
rested for
trying
a
to
year.
press freaking square. What the hell the fuck do you want from me?
Through, bro.
I don't
No,
think
no. I pressed square. I pressed it. I pressed square. Oh, I couldn't.
Well,
There's
you guys
freaking
playing.
3 people on me. Okay, there's 3 people on me. I couldn't.
People, though.
I can. Okay.
The game is still very fun, there's a solid foundation here, and it's also free like HoloCure, so for all this talk of the lack of multiplayer, I can't be too critical. The commitment here is 0 to none. There are even voice clips this time around, and when you're in the little campfire rest area between stages, the backpack girl and the armor girl will talk to you in full Japanese and English sentences.
どちらになさいますか？とっても素敵なものですね。またのお越しをお待ちしております。Good to see you again.
This is wonderful, it warms my heart. I'm really glad that this made it into the game. The playable roster could feel just a little bit samey in the way they played and their abilities, but it wasn't to the point where I got discouraged from trying to do the story mode with each character. Aside from that, the game is also quite short. The main thing there is to do is finish the story mode with each character, and also tackle hard mode if you're feeling up to the challenge as well. There's a versus mode as well, which I didn't actually get the chance to try, but I presume it's probably fun since the multiplayer aspect is already the highlight for me. Progressing from stage to stage feels satisfying, especially when you've got a full squad of friends in multiplayer, or if you've recruited a bunch of NPC that fight alongside you in single player, and you're just fully decked out with your abilities and your super, causing mayhem on the screen. I didn't find this to be a cakewalk either. It did challenge me quite a bit. In my first playthrough with Botan, I went into the final stage with a full squad, but by the end, it ended up just being me and the final boss, down to the thinnest wire. This game is also oozing with charm. The art of the main characters is gorgeous. The pixel artwork in the game is up to snuff with what I've come to expect of KU, and the pause menu being a live stream is such a nice little touch. I also really liked how the credits were done. The game doesn't cut to black and start playing some pre-recorded video like most other games, but instead it pulls up this chat log on the main menu where all the contributors are listed one by one in the form of a text message. Holo Break is a short and sweet, pick up and play for a bit kind of title. Once you're done with the single player content in a few short hours, you've basically seen all that there is to see. The game doesn't really have as much staying power as HoloCure. Not for a solo experience at least. You'd most likely revisit this game in multiplayer with friends just for some chaotic fun every now and then. By this point, I was starting to pick up on some of the HoloLive lore, like this zombie circus girl whose head pops off, or the description of this item hinting at a horrifying owl. Wait, this definitely has to do with that jump scare character in HoloCure, right? Okay, so it took me a minute because I didn't expect to have this much fun with HoloCure, and I also slotted in Holo Break right afterwards, but now I get to the part of the video I've been itching to talk about since the very beginning. I've played HoloLive Vampire Survivors. I've played HoloLive Double Dragon, both genres outside of my wheelhouse. But now, we're going to one of my favorite gaming genres because there actually exists a HoloLive fighting game called Idol Showdown Next Fez, which is also completely free to play, not that I'd expect any differently at this point. Now, this one actually wasn't made by KU. It was created by a group of HoloLive fans under the name of Bestel Games. At first, I thought this was going to be a kusoge, which is a Japanese term that's been borrowed at large by the fighting game fanbase to refer to a shitty game, or just one that's fun to play because it's totally unfair and broken. But I must apologize to the devs of Idol Showdown for having this preconceived notion. I was clearly not familiar with your game, literally and figuratively. There is an actual fighting game to be found here, full of combos, characters, stages, training mode, single player content, you name it, it's got it. Remember my little charade about rollback netcode a little while ago? Yeah, this free-to-play fighting game has rollback netcode. It's so buttery smooth I might just cry. However, one thing that's absent that I wish the game had was a combo trial mode. Not anything fancy, just a really simple one like Street Fighter 6 that kind of gives you a feel for how to string combos together. However, there is one thing I want to highlight, and that is simple to execute specials. I cannot state enough how much this broadens the appeal of the game. My buddy Mezbach, who avoids fighting games like the plague and was even hesitant to play Idol Showdown despite loving HoloLive, started to warm up to the game when he noticed how easy it was to perform a special. You don't have any crazy pretzel motions or anything like that. It's as simple as moving your joystick down and forward and pressing a button. The combos are a different story. Some can be kind of tricky to time and string together, but by implementing easy inputs, you dispel the fear that many players have where they think to themselves, I love watching people play fighting games, but I could never do that myself. The skill ceiling is a bit high though, and don't just take that from me, the official website says so as well, but to counteract that point, the game is also free, so what do you really have to lose, you know? There's a whole ranking system too, so you can physically gauge your progress as you climb the ranks. I can't speak for the rollback during ranked play because I had my friend to play with, so I didn't hop into ranked myself, but in our sessions, the connection was really good and we never experienced any form of lag, so I'd wager a guess that it's probably the same for ranked as well. There's also this really cool single player mode called the Virtual Trainer, and there's one thing you've got to know about me. I am the last line of defense for single player content in fighting games. I'll be vouching for it till my dying breath, and the Virtual Trainer is a fantastic example of a really fun single player fighting game experience. You go through this randomly generated map, collecting buffs along the way, and this honestly reminded me a lot of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax's Golden Arena mode, which is essentially the same thing. I consider that to be the pinnacle of single player content in fighting games, so to even make a comparison with Idol Showdown's Virtual Trainer should already go to show that this game mode is pretty fun. The game is also just oozing with charm, man. It has the same livestream motif as Holo Break when you finish a match. I love reading through these chat messages at the end of each round. The stages are beautiful and have references to HoloLive everywhere, which definitely went over my head, but Mehezbach was thrilled to see. The animations for the combos are great, and the supers are, well, super cool. Before you start a match, you choose an assist, and once you've built enough resources to summon them, they'll come out onto the field and help you out, and I found these to be quite funny as well. Mehezbach hit me with a truck this one time out of nowhere, and it sent us both into a laughing fit. Now, normally, I would let that clip play out so you could see us laughing, but I wasn't aware when recording footage for this game that some of the music used in the background are materials of HoloLive. So for the sake of my channel, I'm gonna play it safe on this one. I fear the copyright lords. But I do want to sneak in this sick ass snipe I got with Botan.
We don't know.
Holy shit!
Overall, I really loved Idol Showdown, and it might just become my go-to fighting game of choice for if I ever have a friend that wants to experiment with the genre, but doesn't want to commit to the ridiculously high price tags of other fighting games with season passes galore. Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, the fighting game I consider to be the most beginner-friendly, does have a free-to-play version, but you're limited to what character you can play each week. I have to reiterate here at the end that Idol Showdown is free and has no such character limitations. So really, and I truly mean this, there's nothing to lose from trying this game out. It's still getting updates to this very day, and more characters will join the mix as well, all without the need to have a character pass or deluxe edition. So that about wraps up the HoloLive games that I wanted to talk about, but what about the rest, you might be asking? From what I could tell by looking at Steam user reviews and by consulting with my VTuber expert Mehizbak, the majority of these other games are more geared towards fans of HoloLive. Take Holo Parade for example, which is Holo Indie's 4th highest rated game. The reviews are really good, but a lot of them mention how it's going to be a bit of a pop culture shock if you play this game without any HoloLive knowledge. Take HoloLive Treasure Mountain as well. The reviews are really solid, but again, it's an experience that HoloLive fans will make the most of. What makes HoloCure, Holo Break, and Idol Showdown the exceptions for me is that they can be enjoyed as video games first and a love letter to HoloLive second. I won't deny that my time with these games has slowly begun my HoloLive indoctrination, but I'm nowhere near the level to be able to enjoy some of these other indie titles. I will say though, I do have a bit of a thing for Botan. She's got a gun in both Idol Showdown and Holo Break, and now I'm waiting excitedly for her eventual debut in HoloCure. You know, I think it's finally time I said it. That's my Oshi right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.